Horrible.
Licensed attorney, award-winning writer, businessman, entrepreneur, and other over-the-top
But
crap. It's Life and
not
Law
bothering
with
me.
Eugene Cisco Jr.
That's like stuff that bother you. That's fine.
Yeah, man. As long as I can get to work, shit on it. Is that the way it works? Most people don't give two shits about anything as long as it don't impact their way to get to the grocery store and get them a pack of cigarettes. Are we on?
You're on. You're
All
live.
right. We are, let me put my daggone phone away. We're at Life and Law. Check us out on many of our platforms. I really have an active YouTube. Our YouTube isn't very active right now. It will be, but we have TikTok, we have Instagram, Facebook, at Real Life and Law, and I am Eugene Cisco, and the guy behind the curtain, or actually in front of the curtain, is Mr. Brian.
Paying no attention to the man behind the curtain.
All right, Mr. Brian, how are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing all-
I'm dry.
We're dry. Okay, so
My humor is too.
yeah, well, yeah, your humor's very dry. It's what they used to tell me about my humor was dry,
Yours is just not funny.
and then I'd throw water on them. How's that? A little bit of water for my humor. So you said dry. So we've been in our neck of the woods in eastern Kentucky. We have been inundated with water and flooding and coming from the skies and buckets of it and buckets of it. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, it has uprooted it. And of course, the national media hasn't paid much attention to us in the mountains, and they seldom do, particularly in these little areas, rural areas like Kentucky or West Virginia, Indiana. A lot of these places, when bad shit happens, most of the people in the media either ignore it or they mock it. They make fun of it. And that's what's happening now. You've got situations where I think in one county, I think the death toll is 38, I believe.
I think it's 38 throughout the region.
38
to my-
throughout the region.
To my knowledge, and there's more. They were telling me in one county there's three. I heard on the news this morning there's three women they're still looking for in one
Yeah.
particular county. There's
And not-
hundreds still missing.
Yeah, in Knott County alone, I think the death toll is higher. They had particularly a high amount of rain in a short period of time. And so when all of that happens, it seems to me, just as an observer of, watching the news since I was 13 years old and kind of aware to watch the news and pay attention, we get ignored. We've always been ignored. We're ignorant. Let's put it simple. Mostly ignorant, according to the media. Ignorant white people live in our parts of the country. We're probably about 98.9% Caucasian. But most people, particularly in the media and these commentators, take that opportunity to either ignore us or make fun of us. Or they blame us for some reason, like there you get what you get, God's punishing you for, being pro-abortion or pro-gun or whatever it is. You get these morons saying this kind of stupid stuff. Then you've got your climate. Whenever there's a disaster like this a natural disaster? You've got these idiots talking about climate change and global. Well, of course, I said global warming, right? The global warming is the passe term. Climate change now. Well, in my estimation, climate's been changing, forever.
Changes every day.
Changes every day.
But with that, the climate change basically is just more extreme lately than it has been in the past since we were kids.
Well, that's what they say. But Dennis Miller had the funniest take on global warming. He says, when I was 7, it was hot. Now, as an adult, it's even hotter because I'm taller. I'm closer to the sun. That's Dennis Miller's take on
Like
climate change.
I mean, we're getting more severe hurricanes than we've ever had on record.
Well,
We've had more tornadoes.
they
We've
s-
had more microbursts in this area than we've had.
They
in a
say
long
that,
time.
but Honestly, I don't know the data. I haven't looked at it. That's what they say. I'm not sure about they. A lot of those they have said they're the same they, the government, they have said masks work, the shots work. There is no, we're not in a recession. They have told us all along, eat wheat, don't eat wheat. Coffee's good for you, coffee's bad for you. They, the government, and a lot of those agencies keep telling us things, and I'm not sure what to believe.
Well,
Um,
I mean, you could see it for yourself. I mean,
well,
From Katrina to present, the hurricanes.
but that's in my lifetime. We're talking about the world as a whole.
We are more prepared now, especially for hurricanes, especially for flash flooding and tornadoes.
We
More
used to
prepared than we
be
used to be.
we used to be in a glacier where we live. This used to be water all over. Used to be water. And when you
That's what they
depends
say,
on how.
though. Isn't
Yeah.
that what they
Well, no,
say?
actually, you can look at that. That's true. The shifts and all of that stuff. There used to be an ice age. There was an ice age. They called it the Little Ice Age, and I think the 1820s or 1830s. I think that's what led to the potato famine. So I guess my point is
And to my knowledge, that was a volcano.
well, I don't
It
know.
was a volcano. From what I read, it was a volcano that actually somewhere,
And
I think in Alaska or something at that point, that took ash into the sky and it caused a blackout of the sky,
and
which caused a
that might be
famine.
true. That might be true. And I will trust you on that until someone out there, maybe one of our listeners, will call us an idiot and send us the facts. Facts are optional here at certain points.
I mean, we're
But
just throwing things at the wall right now.
this is what I do know. When I was in the 7th grade or 8th grade in the science books in the 7th and 8th grade were talking about global cooling. They were worried that the globe was going to freeze. That was in my 7th and 8th grade science books. Then they talked about ash rain and all of that. So
Acid rain.
acid rain, yeah, all of that crap in the 7th and 8th grade. Where's it at? How did we go from me in the 7th and 8th grade in the late 60s, where the globe is going to freeze, to now we're going to burn up and drown?
Well,
It's just nuts.
you
It is
also you've had
nuts.
more technology. You've had satellites in the sky. You could study more. It's more in depth than it
Right.
was at that time.
Yeah. So
So I mean, back then,
I don't deny that the climate's changing because it's always changed.
they used to
It's
kill
always
cats
changed.
during the Black Plague because they thought they
Right.
were witchcraft,
Right.
and that's what caused the Black Plague. I
Climate
mean,
changes. It's
things
always
happen.
changing, and so I don't get my panties in a wad over it. And the statistic and the point that I always reference when you watch the news, pay careful attention to the news, is that when you hear a meteorologist talk about the weather, particularly they do this when it's hot. It's the hottest recorded temperature in 80 years. Okay, 80 years ago it was just as hot. People were riding
Well,
horses
they
80
could say.
years ago.
I think what they're inferring is it's recorded. I mean, but before that, it
I
wasn't
understand. I get
recorded.
that. I get all that, but to jump and say that today was just as hot as 80 years, but today is different and today is global warming is utter nonsense.
Well,
To me, it's utter nonsense.
the other fact that I heard recently, this was the largest summertime flood since 1903, and this was pre dams, pre controlling of the water.
Right. But 1903, it was just as bad.
I think it was it was high at that point, but this is
Yeah.
the highest summertime flood since 1903.
Yeah. I mean, so again, so what about, I only say that as,
So you're diminishing the fact that it's bad because it's happened before.
no, what I am saying is that as a point of reference for climate change, to me that don't make rational, logical sense. Because if it was just as bad in 1903 when we were on horseback and burning a shit ton of coal, and when we were dumping crap in streams and rivers and lakes, I'm not saying our quality of life is so much better, but to me, the point of reference on climate change, I just don't get it. However, Be that as it may, a lot of people are suffering. So if you're out there and you're listening and you're watching, what I would encourage is, if you and these people are hurting, and to have a lot of commentators ignore these people just because they're white and conservative. Most of and there's a lot more liberals here, but we're tagged with you hear Mitch McConnell. People drag politics into it, and Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul are senators in Kentucky, and because there are senators, that gives a lot of these morons who are ignoring us or mocking us. They believe it gives them license to do all that, and it's totally unfair. And we've got people that are suffering. And if you're one of those that's bringing politics into
Well,
into such a thing like this, and ignoring the pain and suffering, shame on you.
I got to bring this up. This was in the Lexington Herald. I don't know if you've seen it or not. It was a cartoon that they put on, and it's just it's flooded valley with little power poles and everything in the back. You could tell how high the water is.
Hey,
There's an old
do you
shack.
have it on our
I
screen?
don't have it on the screen. I wasn't prepared for that. I
Okay,
apologize.
that's all right.
But it was an old shack, and there's a man and a woman. A woman's holding a baby. They just look like little hillbillies with a dog on there. And it's
Caricatures of
got yeah,
caricatures of hillbillies.
basically it makes it on the side of the house. It says EKY,
Yeah.
and it has like rabbit ear antennas on the
And
side of the building.
EKIY is Eastern
Eastern
Kentucky.
Kentucky. And the caption says, "When it rains, it pours on poor people."
Yeah.
And a lot of people were outraged with that cartoon. I take it a different way.
Yeah. How do you take it?
When I heard about it, I was upset until I saw it. And then when I saw it, I'm like, yes, it does pour on poor people because they're the ones that live in the head of the hollows. They're the ones that are suffering the most because once they're displaced, they lose everything.
Well, they have nowhere to
They have
go.
nowhere to go. They have no money. They have nothing. And all they have right now is the charity and the goodwill of people. And the people are coming together. I mean, people all over the state. Lexington radio stations really pushing hard to get food and water and support in this area.
Are we? And that's true. Are we too loud? Is our gauge up there too loud on our?
No,
It
it's
sounds a little loud, but yeah, and that's true. It does, and I think it impacts the poor. Most any kind of disaster, no matter whether you're in Eastern Kentucky or wherever, no matter where you live, any kind of disaster affects the poor because those are the ones who can least afford it. If you're living on a fixed income, if you're on disability or you're on Social Security or maybe you're just scrapping a living, making $15,000-$20,000 a year, which most of the people in our area, earn an income, below the what I guess they call it the lower quadrile, which is I think under $20,000 a year. The majority of our people live that way, so they can. God, my mic is popping. They can least afford to. They can least afford to move. Most of the time they're living in trailers that's 40 or 50 years old, or living in old houses.
Yeah, just I had to go for a client recently. I was over in Letcher County, and it was bad. It was really bad. The whole area I was in, going up to it, it was really nice and beautiful homes, nice. But when you go up these little hollows and you're going 4 and 5 miles up there, it gets bad.
And you're right.
And those are the people that are impacted the most.
And when you have these microbursts, these huge, unprecedented showers, regardless of their origin, you can blame it on climate change. It doesn't matter what caused them. The fact is, it happened. And so when they hit the heads of these hollers, as we call them, or you said hollows, but you're a hillbilly, but you've moved away, so you've lost some of that. When they hit these hollers, it's like a funnel, and they live in these valleys, and the water just squeezes down through these little creeks and streams, and the force and the power of the water becomes magnified as it travels down these little valleys, and it's truly unfortunate, and I believe it does disproportionately impact the poor because they have nothing to do. For example, the little family, there was a tale, and I can't remember if it was in Knott County or where the family was, but they were affected by one of the floodings and flash floods. The fella There was a man, a woman, and I think he had 4 children. Well, his they had made it to the top of their house, and the house was taken away by the water, and the man and wife were both clinging to 2 of their children each, and both children and the wife fell into the all 4 children and the wife fell into the water and died. And the man, I think he still is currently in a hospital in critical condition. And so when you see that kind of suffering, I don't know how you can, basically say they deserved it. All those people that had this bad thing happen to them, they deserved it because of Mitch McConnell or Rand Paul. You're just a you're
And they take
you
it a step further that God's punishing these
yeah.
people. I don't believe that
Well,
either. I mean,
they
it's
they drag that into it because most of these people are God-fearing people, and your large liberal media establishment, they don't like religion. They have a thing about the baby Jesus, and so if you're going to do that, you're just a retard. That's all you are. And I mean that in a clinical sense. You have an IQ
is a
below.
retard a clinical
It
term?
is. You have a IQ below 25. Actually, below 75 is a retard. Below 25 is an idiot. You're just an idiot. I think I'm not going to call you a retard. I'm not going to dignify you with the word retard. I'm going to call you a fucking idiot. That's what you are. So
Well, you dropped the first one.
I did because that's what you are. It makes me angry when people do that, and these people are hurting. So whether it's climate change, whether it's just one of those things that happen every 100 years, doesn't really matter. You've got people that are hurting.
We also have a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of attention in this area right now, more so than I believe that we've had in the past in '77 and '84, and all the
Yeah,
bad floods that we've had in the past.
yeah.
Now we've got more attention. We got, thankfully, to some of the celebrities, Chris Stapleton, Tyler Childers.
Country music
Yeah,
stars.
they came here with their wallets open,
Yeah,
and they came without looking for attention.
and they actually
They came
worked.
to work and
Yeah,
help.
yeah, and that's what we need. And again, as a kind of a practical matter, for me, if you're out there and you feel, if you feel compelled to give money, I prefer to give it locally. The closer down you give your money, what I mean is the more local you make your gift, the more likely it is to end up in the hands of someone that's needy. And you don't always have to give to an organization either. Buy a gift card, and if you know someone out there that's hurting or suffering, 15, 20, $25, whatever you can afford, buy a gift card at Walmart and give it to them. Slip it in their mailbox. Slide it underneath their door. Or just walk up to them and give it to them. They'll appreciate it. If you've got clothing, good, solid, old clothing that a family can use, give it to them. This is what people need. And by and large, I have to say, my son-in-law's brother was impacted. They lost everything they have, and the outpouring of support in the community has been unbelievable. But you know what? I would not expect anything different from our hillbilly families in the mountain. I just wouldn't expect anything different because that's just the way we are. And I mean that absolutely. When bad shit happens, you can see these little communities come together and really do good things. And I think that's, if there's a silver lining to all this, that's the kind of what you do see is the goodness of these poor white people in the mountains. That's what you see.
When bad things happen, people seem to come together.
Well, I think they do it. They do it more here in the mountains. I think because we're clannish, we've got that reputation. We still have it, particularly up these hollers. You've got generations of people and cousins and first cousins and second cousins living up these little hollers that have lived up there for generations, and that's what they do. They help their family because that's what they're doing. They're not really helping a neighbor; they're helping their family. So, to that end, I wanted to talk about the practicality of what happens when these things happen. So, for the first start, what happens is people lose their home. So, what do? More than likely, they're going to have to move in with a friend, right?
Yeah, we're not really equipped with shelters like that. I mean,
Right.
our homeless shelters are full.
Yeah. So we have to rely again on our family and our neighbors. And oftentimes you'll see people extend their home or a basement or some extra living space to a friend or a family member. So they'll come piling in on them. And that causes, and oftentimes these people have kids of their own. So you're going to see what I call community living, communal living. And there's a way to really go about that. And I think if you're out there listening to me as a practical matter, and I'm going to put my psychologist hat on. Not we're not we're not listening to lawyer Eugene. You're listening to counselor Eugene. So, as a practical matter, there's really a way to go about communal living. If you're bringing someone into your house, whether it's a family or even one person, I think the best way to do that right off the bat is to sit down, tell them you love them, welcome them into your home, but sit down and set some rules. I think the ground rules are really important from the very get go. If you, because if you don't establish a working order to the household, then what happens is the structure falls apart. And then you'll see animosity and aggravation start seeping in. And then that's when the relationships become strained and fractured, and ultimately they could end on a really bad note. So not only do you have the loss of possessions, you've been uprooted. So you've got this family into your home possibly. Um, and they have needs as well. But what you should do, what both people should do, and most people don't do this, they avoid it. And I'll tell you why they avoid it. First off, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to sit down across from someone that you know and say, listen, I love you, but this is the way it has to be. In order for all of us to live in peace and to not be pissed off all the time, this is what has to happen. It's uncomfortable to have that conversation. Most people would rather ignore it because that's our nature, is to ignore things.
My house, my rules type of thing.
Yeah, well, I don't think you have to be that hard
I know,
about
but
it.
essentially what it is
But you
when you're a
have,
guest in a house.
yeah, right, exactly. So what happens is you got everybody thinking, well, they should know better. Well, you know what? They know better at their home. They don't know better at your home, and the way that you run things and what your schedule is like and what your needs are. So I think right off the bat, you sit down, you have that conversation, you say, listen, these are the things that we do, and this is, I'm just going to put this out there. This is kind of what I have to have happen in order for all of us to live comfortably here in this space. Now, that's uncomfortable and it might sting a little bit, but honestly, what happens is the other party might be waiting for you to say that. The guest may be waiting, well, they're not telling me to do something. They're not telling me to do anything. I really don't know what to do. I feel like I don't want to invade their space. I don't want to tread on their ground. So the guest might be having all of this dialogue in their head, and they truly don't know because they are in your home. They are encroaching upon your space. And I'm sure they're aware of it. But sometimes they're hesitant and afraid to ask. So I think if you sat down from the beginning and you lay out that marker and say, these are things, this is what we do, particularly during school time. And school's getting ready to start. And if you've got a family, then there's a certain rhythm to your household. And you want to try to incorporate them as much as you can and let them know what the rules and the boundaries are. Well, you do that for your damn kids are in your house, right? You got kids, you say, curfew's at 10.
Well, some people do.
Well, right, but if to run a good house and to keep order, you have to have rules. Without order, there's chaos. And if you have kids don't do well in chaos. So to set this out from the get-go and to say, as a basic guide framework, we've got, we get up at this time, we go to bed at this time. We all take care of our trash. You're more than welcome to eat whatever we have here, but clean up after yourself. And you might be as specific as say, could you help me fold the clothes? I'll do the laundry if you'll fold the clothes, or can you do the laundry on Tuesday and Thursday, or I need you to do the dishes, or, help clean the bathroom, but give specific tasks. To just tell someone I need some help and have them understand what that means is a little bit foolish. I think most people do well with direction. Um, I know when I have had to live in spaces that were owned by others and that actually lived there with us, it's uncomfortable. But I think the more you can do as a guest to make yourself valuable in that household, the better off the relationship's going to be. And then you don't have all that tension. If you don't bring it up, the tension can get rough because, both, especially the host. If you're the host and you own the home, you're like thinking, holy shit, they're not doing anything. And I wish they would, but unless you have that conversation, they're not a mind reader. People aren't mind readers. And they may be waiting and they may welcome. What do you think about all of that? What do you think about that?
Well, I agree. I mean, it's just I've stayed with people, just for like a long weekend or something, and you feel like you need to do something. You don't
Yeah.
want to intrude.
Well, you want to contribute anyway,
I understand that.
right? If you're using their water and eating some of their food, damn, pick up after your drawers. Pick them
Yeah.
up off the floor, flush the commode. You
Make,
know,
make your bed.
make your bed. Start off making your bed, and if you got kids,
It's the first thing I do every morning.
ev-
First
eh,
thing I do is make my bed.
and it's the best. It's the best thing in the world to do. Because you come in your room, the bed's nice and made.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you're impacted by the flood, and as a final point on this, if you're impacted, you know, um, it's a tough thing. I
It is,
cannot imagine it.
there's even more to that. I mean, I was looking at some of the pictures uh, from um, from Elkhorn Creek. Like, people may not have been flooded, but their bridges and their driveways are
Yes.
complete, and their cars are on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah.
They're down to one lane. They've
Yeah.
got no way to get out.
Yeah. So
And and people need things. They may not have water, electricity, anything. They have shelter, but they don't have anything
yeah.
else.
So if you know anybody impacted by that, we hate it. We don't like it. It's horrible. So
And don't hoard. Don't go out and buy
yeah.
generators. Don't go buy fans. These kind of things for yourself in anticipation of this happening. People need this stuff now.
Yeah. And like I said, give 15 or 20 dollar gift card. Bring by somebody some clothes
Yeah.
that
Buy
you
some
know.
Lysol. Buy some cleaning
Cleaning
supplies.
supplies.
Anything.
That
Anything. These people need help.
and they have nothing. And then so there's that. And then if you take somebody in, the best thing you can do for both of you is set down the ground rules. And you don't have to be mean about it. You just sit down and say, listen, these are the things that we do here. Um, in order for this to work and for us not to want to kill each other, these are things we need to do and be specific. Outline specific tasks or duties that you have. That way, there's no guesswork. No one in that family should ever have to guess what they need to do. Um, and if you're a guest in someone's home, ask the person, "What would you like me to do? What do you need me to do? Let me do something." And sometimes they might be hesitant to ask you to do something. But if you see them doing, if they say, "No, no, no, that's okay. You don't need to do anything." But if you see them doing something, the next day do that for them. If you see that every day they take out the garbage, you get up early in the morning, you take out the garbage for them. If you see them put in a load of clothes, granted, if you come into them from a flood situation, you probably don't have many clothes, but all that stuff that you do have, clean it yourself. Put it in the laundry, clean it, keep it out of the way, keep the floors orderly. And if you've got kids, make them behave. Make your kids behave. Um, because that's a big burden, and those are the kind of things that can drive people. You know,
Here's the other thing. If you go through your closets, go through, get excess clothes, things you haven't worn, take it, donate it to these.
yeah,
Don't give it to Goodwill because they'll sell it.
yeah.
Give it to these organizations that will give it to the needy.
So I said the closer to the ground you make your gift, the more likely it is to get to where it
Yeah,
needs to go.
think about where you're going to put this stuff. Think about where you're going to take the
Yeah.
food. They're good organizations that don't take advantage of this.
So give locally, give to a friend, give to a family member. If you have someone, if you welcome someone into your home, do yourself a favor and do them a favor. Set out some clear and concise guidelines and a framework from which all the parties can live in that space without wanting to kill each other, because you don't want a good act to turn into a bad long term um, situation where you have negative feelings for each other. So that's kind of, I think, our tip for today on this particular topic. I don't think I have anything last. Are we ready to?
I know if I go to your house, I'm gonna have to take out the
Yeah,
garbage.
damn it! You're going to take out the garbage, and you're going to have to walk the dog, and maybe turn off the pump to my pool. I'll give you the shitty jobs that I don't like. How's that?
That sounds fine.
You got to pull your weight, man. Come on. Yeah, don't you get us out of here, Mr. Bryan.